What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 84 of the Silver and Gold podcast. I'm Josh,
And I'm Mike.
and today it looks like my camera is being delayed again. I think that has to do with the solution that I provided in order to stop my computer from crashing. But, sometimes when you have one solution to one problem, it creates another problem, for another thing. We're going to roll with the punches. I'm going to restart my camera before we get into our first topic. We have some fun things to talk about and some not so fun things to talk about today. So, hopefully that's better. I thought that I fixed it before this episode, but turns out I'm a moron and I didn't. But we're going to go ahead and talk about the 49ers versus Cardinals game. Mike, how much of this game were you able to watch? Did you watch? You said you watched the final drive.
I'm trying to remember. I saw the field goal. Um, at that point, I was playing cards. I probably watched like the last drive of each team. I think the Cardinals ended up having to. I don't know if they punted or what happened, but
Mm.
yeah.
Well, I'll fill you in on what happened. So, the 49ers won yet another close game while missing some very key players. The final score was 16-15, and they won off a late game-winning drive led by Mac Jones, and it was capped off by Eddie Pinheiro drilling it right down the middle. So that's the field goal that you were talking about. So far, every game this season has just given me 2019 vibes, where the team just kind of finds a way to win in the end. Um, but I do want to talk about like the things that stood out to me about this game. The first one in particular is the time of possession. From very early on in this game, the Cardinals dominated the time of possession, and it felt like the 49ers really couldn't get the Cardinals off the field. But luckily, the Niners were able to limit the damage by holding the Cardinals to just field goals up until the fourth quarter, where they got their first touchdown. Um, the Niners were also lucky that the Cardinals kicker missed a field goal very early on. That also contributed to the Cardinals not scoring as much points. Uh, but like in terms of when we talk about the time of possession in this game, the Cardinals controlled the ball for about 34 minutes and 39 seconds, while the 49ers only had the ball for 25 minutes 21 seconds. It's like the Cardinals were doing to the 49ers what we normally do to other teams. Um, but so uh, it was amazing that the defense was able to hold Arizona to 260 total yards of offense and 15 points. Funny enough, when you actually look at the amount of plays ran on each side, even though Arizona had the ball for roughly 10 more minutes than the 49ers, they only ran two more plays. Arizona had 64 plays and the Niners had 62. Um, and the Niners offense was able to move the ball through the air, but they struggled in the run game. So, it's kind of been a trend this season. But in this game, the offense had a total of 355 yards, 282 passing, 73 rushing, and the Niners were not efficient on third down in this game. They ended up just going 2 of 10. Um, but while they were inefficient on third down, the 49ers were actually very clutch in the pivotal moments in this game. Four clutch plays in particular that stood out to me were Mac Jones's deep ball to Pearsall on 4th and 2. I thought it was a really poor decision, not just on the play call, but maybe the decision by Mac Jones to throw the ball deep on 4th and 2. It's like you only needed 2 yards to pick up the first down, and he decided to air it out, and I'm just like. To me, it was a low percentage throw, but you have to give credit to Mac Jones for making the throw, and credit to Pearsall for coming down with the catch. Let me see how my camera's doing. All right, I think we're cooking. Julio Rodriguez says, "Is this live?" Yes, Julio, this is live. Welcome to the channel. Is this a Julio Rodriguez that I already know, or are you brand new to the channel? Either way, welcome in. we talk about the Niners and the Raiders on this podcast. This is actually our latest start, probably, for one of our shows. So we typically have long podcasts, but I think we might try to, we'll probably be done by about one, depending on how we're doing timing wise. But welcome to the channel. The Yeah, so I thought it was a low percentage throw, but I give credit to Mac Jones and Pearsall for making the play happen. The next play that jumped out to me, the clutch play, was Fred Warner jumping up and swatting away Kyler Murray's pass on third down, kind of late in the fourth quarter. I thought that was a really big play because it looked like, they were going to get a first down and, probably ice the clock. Similarly, on another third down, it was 3rd down and 9, and Upton Stout broke up this pass that looked like it was surely going to be caught by the Cardinals wide receiver. And, that was the game right there. So, really, if Upton Stout doesn't break that up, I don't think the 49ers win this game. And then lastly was the play that Mike, was able to catch. But was Eddie Piñeiro's game-winning field goal. And let's be honest, I think all of us Niner fans were nervous because of, we're just kind of scarred on who our previous kicker was. But I don't know. I really like the vibe with Eddie Piñeiro. So, it's a completely different experience than when we had Jake Moody. So, in this game, the 49ers only allowed 1 sack, and I thought the defense did a decent job of containing Kyler Murray. He finished with 6 carries for 37 yards, which is a good chunk, but I expected more because of, the week before. I wasn't able to talk about the game the week before because we unfortunately had no time this past week in order to do an episode, but we're here tonight. I thought, the way that they let Spencer Rattler kind of scramble, I thought Kyler Murray was just going to, be a little bit more lethal in his scrambles. So the defense, I think they got also bailed out with some crucial drops. There was one by Marvin Harrison Jr., which, I don't know why Harrison Jr. jumped for it. Like, he was kind of hit. It would have been kind of in stride, but he decided to jump, and, it changes your eye, your eye level, and, just kind of hits your hands wrong and you drop it. Another one was Amari DeMarcado had like a walk-in touchdown on, I don't know if it was a dump off or if it was like a design play, but he just dropped the ball and would have had 6 right there. And I guess another thing that stood out to me was there was a holding call in this game on Dominic Pooney, which did end up resulting in a safety, but I feel like the call. To begin with was pretty ticky-tack, but even then, Pooney, when he had his hands on Calais Campbell, it was not in the end zone. You can watch the replay. The holding did not occur in the end zone, but Mac Jones was in the end zone. Mike, what is the rule? If the quarterback's in the end zone, even if the hold does not occur in the end zone, is it a safety?
I'm assuming, for some reason, some of your words are cutting out. I'm assuming that if the ball handler is in the end zone when the penalty occurs, that is where it occurs. Because chances are the linemen aren't going to be in the end zone unless, it's kind of a broken play. But my guess is it has to be when the ball handler is in the end zone.
Yeah. Real quick, Mike, go ahead and speak just so that way I make sure that your audio is coming through on the
Can
stream.
you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure because it wasn't even a couple episodes ago where I was speaking and my audio wasn't going through. Um, but yeah, like I've always kind of understood the rule of if there's a holding, it's where the penalty occurred. So if the penalty occurred in the end zone, then you know I would think that it's a safety. But I'm just glad that the 49ers were still able to overcome that because I don't think I didn't think it was a penalty to begin with. Like it was really like I was trying to find where the hold was, and maybe
Mm.
that's me just you know maybe I'm being a little biased, but uh, that on top of the fact that it didn't occur in the end zone, just kind of I don't know made me feel weird. Uh, like I completely have misunderstood the rule this whole time. Um, but in this game, I do want to talk about the players that did stand out. Um, so Nick Bosa stood out to me in a negative way, and I guess we can talk a little bit more in depth about him. He left the game with a knee injury, which, when he was on the sideline, he kind of gave a thumbs down to somebody in the crowd for. So from that point on, you knew it wasn't good. And we now know that he tore his ACL and he will require season ending surgery again. And that's obviously going to be a big blow to the pass rush. Mike, what are your thoughts on Nick Bosa's injury?
Well, in our group chat, we were kind of. I mean, I wasn't really texting at that time, but I was seeing the texts of, kind of questioning, is this the same knee from before? He also had an ACL in high school. I mean, three ACL injuries in one career is usually not good. Um, and at the bare minimum is pretty bad luck. I didn't see the play when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this was like a non-contact or somebody ran into him or what, but you know, it was just odd because I think immediately post game, Shanahan was asked about it and he was like, "Oh, we don't suspect that it's, an ACL." And
That
then
should have
not
told
even
you. That should have told you everything you needed to know. If Shanahan
yeah,
said, "Oh yeah, we're not really worried about it,"
he should be back soon.
that should tell you. Look at McCaffrey last year.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know. The Niners and injuries, between them just getting injuries as often as they do and then also how they report their injuries is just fucking beyond me. But nonetheless, very unfortunate for your team. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, if they're reporting that he tore his ACL, what is it actually? You know, is
yeah,
he terminally ill?
nah, he's got a Achilles.
Yeah. No. Uh, Knock on wood. Uh, Frank's in the chat. He said it should have been a safety when Murray was guilty of intentional grounding in his own end zone. I All right on that one. I initially thought so, but I see. When I watched the replay of that one, the ball was not in the end zone. So I kind of understand why they didn't call a safety on that. Um, but the one on Pooney was just that one to me was I don't know. Yeah, everything about it just makes me scratch my head. But going back to Nick Bosa, one thing to be optimistic about is that the 49ers defense in 2020 was still good when Bosa went down in week 2 against the Jets. And the 49ers still had a top defense in that season. So I think coming out of this injury, I think we should expect to see more Bryce Huff and Michael Williams on the field together.
Yeah, in the limited Niners play that I have seen this year, what it has been to me is I don't really catch much of their offense somehow. Like I watched the first half of the Saints game
Mm-hmm.
and then I kind of switching over to the Rams and Titans game for some reason, probably because of halftime. But what I have done every single week is I come back to the final 2 minutes of each Niner game And in the first 2 weeks, it was Nick Bosa making sort of the game-saving play. But right with him, kind of as the unsung hero, but if you're watching the tape, you go, holy shit, he blew that guy up, was Michael Williams.
Yes.
And I,
That's
I, I think I think that is kind of a big thing to take from these first 3 games is that it looks like you guys nailed it and hit it out of the park with this guy.
Yeah. So I was actually just about to talk about him. So, speaking of Michael Williams, I think while his performance is not going to jump out on the stat sheet, he's passing the eye test with flying colors. And I think that he's proving to be a great run stuffer, and he looks immovable. So, I'm really glad that you brought him up. Um, you know, the other player that I did mention in terms of Bosa's absence also has been looking pretty good. Has been Bryce Huff, and I think that he's looked very quick. So kind of the same stuff that we saw out of training camp with all those videos, uh, and he was able to register. I think probably the Niners' only sack of the day. Uh, and so Bryce Huff, all right, you know that meme, Mike, where it's like, you know, I accidentally just became important at my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bryce Huff, he just became important. He became more important.
Yep.
Um, and going back to players that stood out, Fred Warner, still one of the best defenders in football, if not the best. He had a great game. D. Winters, I think, is still doing a good job through 3 weeks of filling the Dre Greenlaw void. And, he's even getting the 15-yard penalties that Greenlaw used to get. So, there's just something about playing weak side linebacker on the 49ers that you have to at least get a face mask or an unnecessary roughness penalty. It's a tradition at this point. Uh, you wouldn't be able to play the position right if you didn't, right? The last guy took it a little too far. He just flat out quit on the team in the middle of a game, but I don't think that's what they're looking for. So D. Winters is doing it right. Ricky Pearsall, I think Pearsall had a great game. He had 8 catches for 117 yards, which is 14.6 yards per catch. Those are similar to Brandon Ayuk 2023 numbers. Um, with the game on the line, the 49ers kept looking to Pearsall, and he answered often when his number was called. And going forward, I think the 49ers are going to need to keep Pearsall very involved. He was just one of the best players on the field yesterday. Um, Kendrick Bourne, another wide receiver, it's almost like he picked up where he left off the last time he was on the team. And as I mentioned before, I like that he can come in when Jennings is out and be a secure target. I always felt like Kendrick Bourne, when he was on the 49ers, was kind of the safety blanket on third down, and then Jennings kind of took over that role. But Kendrick Bourne, he had 4 catches for 38 yards. And then Christian McCaffrey, for the love of God, please, Kyle, find a way to lighten the load off of McCaffrey. McCaffrey had 27 touches, Mike. He had 17
Yeah.
carries, 17 carries for 52 yards, which wasn't very efficient, and he had 10 catches for 88 yards. Do you, what do you think, Mike? How long can McCaffrey hold up with that usage?
Well, at that rate, he won't. He either has the healthiest calves on the planet, or at this point, Shanahan kind of. I mean, I wouldn't say he doesn't care. Like, I think. I don't know. There's definitely a conversation to be had. Like, I saw the usage and I was like, what happens when he eventually goes down? Because right now, the way it feels is like maybe it's a Mac Jones thing, but like it's almost like Shanahan's out of ideas.
Yeah,
And I mean, sort of a different topic, but like it's kind of interesting, for lack of a better term, that you guys are 3-0. You have won three very, we'll call it hard fought, close games, you know. But really, at the end of the day, they were one score games. And something I was thinking earlier was like, not necessarily this year, just the past 20 years of the Raiders. Like, what the Niners are doing these first 3 weeks are the anti Raiders of like, you're 3-0 and three one score games that literally came down to the final 2 minutes, like every single game. The Raiders would not do that. The Raiders would have blown two of them, and I would have no hope. Which I'm already there anyways. We'll get to it, but it's a positive, but also when it comes to McCaffrey, it feels like slightly a negative of like you guys like Shanahan is doing just enough with Mac Jones and nonstop McCaffrey, no Ayuk, it's Pearsall. I think Juwan Jennings did not play in this game.
No.
So yeah, no Jennings in this one. Um, no more Boza. You know.
Yeah.
Um, and yet you guys are 3-0. Like that's nice. But you're 3-0 kind of by the skin of your teeth, which in some ways is a positive. Like if that were the Raiders, I'd be feeling awesome right now. But also again, the injuries and then just like the hyper usage of McCaffrey. It's like how long can that last? And if he, knock on wood, inevitably does get hurt, then what are you doing? In theory, you'd have Purdy back, but is what's his name, Brian Robinson gonna get it done? I kind of doubt it. Certainly not in that capacity.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah. You mentioned that Shanahan might be out of ideas. Let me give an analogy. Like right now, the 49ers offense is Hollywood. And, you know, Hollywood used to have a variety of different genres that they would tap into and make movies. There would be comedies, there'd be a lot of horror movies, there'd be, drama, like fresh ideas. And now McCaffrey is a superhero movie. And all we're getting is superhero movies. Just over and 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 over again. So that's my analogy. Like I get that he's your best offensive player, but we cannot afford to lose him, and not have him the rest of the way. So I think that Shanahan he needs to find some carries for Brian Robinson Jr. or Isaac Garendo, who's still explosive. He just can't stay healthy in his own right. But I'd I'd much rather distribute the load personally. Pause. Just for the sake of keeping McCaffrey somewhat fresh. And then, uh, we did slightly mention Mac Jones. He's another player that stood out to me, not just like in this game, but over the past 2 weeks, because really Mac Jones was not amazing in this game. He had an interception, and he owned up to it after and just kind of explained like, yeah, it was he threw it right to the defender, which all things considered, I will say over the past couple weeks, I've grown to really like and appreciate Mac Jones. And before he was on the Niners, I did not like him because I feel like I've seen him do dirty stuff on the football field, like twist a guy's ankle, that kind of stuff. Um,
Hmm.
but like I feel like I don't know if he's just matured or if he just like puts on a really good um, face, for like locker room, like media stuff. But you know, I don't know. I really think Mac Jones has been very charming, and he's the word that Grant has been using for him has been like self-deprecating, and I do think like people who are self-deprecating are, um, they're there's something that like warms your heart to them. Like he's not full of himself. He's pretty. He seems to give off the vibe that he's humble, um, which I think is very enticing. But yeah, I did want to take the time to recognize Mac Jones Uh, he did lead a game-winning drive in this game, and that's all you can really ask for, especially out of a backup quarterback. And then I did want to recognize him because we were not able to have the pod last week. He's 2-0 now with the 49ers, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I feel very confident with our backup quarterback. Um, so, there's that. I don't have to hold my breath every time Brock Purdy takes a hit because I know if he needs to take a play, a game, a couple games off, we have Mac Jones, who is now injured as well because he's on the 49ers. Um, but I think he was able to finish out the game with the knee brace. But the Niners are now 3-0 with 2 divisional wins under their belt, and they have a very winnable game coming up. Mike, is it okay if I turn the topic over to the game coming up?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So the 49ers are going to be playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so they'll have another Sunday afternoon game at Levi Stadium. I don't know what color jerseys they're going to be wearing, but it should always be red. If you're at home, it should be red. That being said, I'm glad it was the 94 throwbacks and not the gold pants. I think the 94 throwback aways are their best away jerseys. Um, but to me, you're at home, wear red. And if you're going to be complaining about the sun and the heat, then don't build a stadium in the Santa Clara Great America parking lot. But that's for Jed to hear. But here are my keys to the game against the Jaguars. The 49ers have to pressure Trevor Lawrence. I think with Bosa down, this will be a taller task, but, they just have to make Lawrence uncomfortable all game. They don't even really have to sack him much. It would be the icing on the cake, but just the defensive line has to make their presence felt. And Robert Saleh might have to, switch up, maybe blitzing at times. I think the next key is to limit the Jaguars' rushing attack. I think the Jaguars have 2 good running backs with Travis Etienne and Bashal Tuten. Etienne is the starter and should be in line for about 16 carries. And, I'm basing that number off of what he's averaged the past couple games. Just they should expect to get a good dose of rush attempts from Etienne and maybe with a little Tuten sprinkled in. The Niners need to keep feeding Pearsall, but also expand the passing game. The Niners should have reinforcements on the way in the wide receiver room. So I'm hoping that Jennings plays in this game, but also Demarcus Robinson should be available because I think his suspension is now fully served. And the next big thing is to lighten the load off of McCaffrey by letting Brian Robinson Jr. and Isaac Rendo get some touches. I understand McCaffrey gives you the best chance, every single play. But do you want to run him into the ground and only have that best chance in the first quarter of the season? I think that Kyle just needs to be smarter about that, in my opinion. Before I get to my prediction, Mike, do you want to say anything or give your prediction on this game?
This is a tough one to predict as far as who is going to win.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think with the Niners injuries and these one score games, I mean all 3 of the games have actually been very hard to predict because it could have gone one different way and we're coming out saying, "Wow, I can't believe the Saints won this game," in week 2. Um the Jags are just weird because they should be, in my opinion, at least offensively, they should be better. Like, Brian Thomas Jr. is struggling. Um, Something that's kind of funny to me, and a reason why I strayed away from Brian Thomas, kind of towards the end of the process in our fantasy draft, was because I realized Brian Thomas did his breakout last year as a
With
rookie
Mac Jones.
exclusively with Mac Jones.
Yep.
Like, for some reason, Brian Thomas and uh, Trevor Lawrence, they just don't click. They haven't clicked yet. Um, and then Travis Hunter, like I don't know. I think this week he was very like here and there offensively. He was playing some defense. Like I don't know. It's really just a run game right now. Like
Uh-huh.
Trevor can every once in a while have a good game, but right now it's just kind of the Travis Etienne show. Um, I don't know. I mean, this is this in San Francisco?
Yeah, it's at Levi's Sunday
It's
afternoon.
at Levi's. Yeah, I'll go with the Niners just because it's the McCaffrey show right now and it's working, you know?
Uh,
And their defense is kind of getting it done as well, you know?
yeah.
And I think the Jags are a team that you can get it done against.
So you're going Niners?
I'm going to go with the Niners.
Yeah, I think the Niners are going to win regardless on if Mac Jones plays or Brock Purdy plays. So, we didn't even talk about the possibility of Brock Purdy returning to play this week. We
Mm.
we didn't even talk about Brock Purdy's injury period because we did our pod before the news came out that he had turf toe. But that just shows how comfortable we are with Mac. That it hasn't been news. It's literally been 2 games since you know since our previous pod, and we're not that it hasn't even come up once. So you know I'm gonna pick the Niners because this team has shown unrelenting resilience so far. Um, so yeah, give me the Niners in another game that I think should be fun to watch. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, let's move on to the Raiders. Are you ready, Mike, for your most anticipated uh, section of the show?
Certainly.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about it. The Raiders versus Commanders. The Raiders lost an ugly game on Sunday morning, 41-24 against the Washington Commanders, who were without Jaden Daniels. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Um, we both picked the Raiders to win this game, mostly because of Jaden Daniels, I
Yep.
think, at the end of the day. Um, and I just didn't think Mariota was going to look like all too efficient or anything. I mean, I think it was the second drive he fumbled. Um, he threw at least one pass that arguably should have been intercepted, although it was bobbled by Terry McLaurin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll start like this. Week 2 versus the Chargers, just like week 1. Like if anybody that watches this video watched our week 1 recap and like week 2 preview, I took notes essentially for every play, definitely for every drive of the game, week 1, Raiders versus Patriots. Just to kind of give the lowdown on how it went and what got us here and how did the Raiders win. I did the same thing in week 2. Even all the way up to the point where I realized, like, yeah, the Raiders are probably not going to win this game against the Chargers.
And the Chargers were just
Um,
giving it to the Raiders, like handing it on a silver platter.
yeah, they were trying to give it back, but Gino was also giving it to them, to their defense. I mean, kudos to the Chargers defense, especially the defensive coordinator. He was drawing up like these delayed blitzes and delayed stunts that were like really impressive to me. And was just completely dismantling our offensive line, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the coverage was just all over Gino's passes. I think Gino looked shell shocked or something. I don't know, something was off with him. He wasn't throwing accurately. And something that I mean, I haven't had a major issue with until I guess week 2, But something I've noticed with him this offseason, preseason, and even a couple throws in week one, he is very like hyper confident in his arm when it comes to tight window throws, and that
Yeah.
tends to not work in his favor. Sometimes it does, and he looks like a fucking stud. When he throws it to Brock Bowers in between three guys and Brock Bowers snags it, it's like, wow, what a dime. And then
Mhm.
the other 5 times out of 6 are deflections in triple coverage, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Um, why not throw it to Gianti? And trust me, we'll fucking get there with Gianti. Um, so yeah, I mean, basically, the run game wasn't working in week 2. It was pretty bad. You just start to see Dylan Lobby in like 2-minute drill, and yeah, it just I came away from the Chargers game going, wow, we really have a problem on the interior of the offensive line. It's too bad that Jackson Powers Johnson had a fucking concussion and couldn't play in this game. Well, then week 3 comes against the Commanders, you know, no Jaden Daniels, and by Thursday, Jackson Powers Johnson was healthy. No more red jersey at practice. He's good to go. Surely Alex Kappa will go back to the bench where he fucking belongs. And thank you, Todd baby.
Yeah.
And that's super awesome. And I maybe not me, maybe. I mean, deep down, yes, I do, but
Yeah,
maybe
Top
not this
baby.
season anymore.
Mike's had a rough weekend watching the Raiders. So just this is his moment of therapy right now. Let him air it out. Top baby says, "I thought this was a Niners podcast. It's both. It's both. So we were talking about the Niners earlier. Well, for the first half of the show. Now we're on the second half of the show. If you want to listen to the in-depth Niners discussion, feel free to rewind. But if you want to hang out with us and stick with us live, and talk shit about the Raiders, you're welcome to do that too. I think Mike is going to be maybe more critical on the Raiders than you might be. So, Mike's like, you can't hurt me if I hurt myself.
Yeah. Alex Kappa belongs. I have had a rough 20 years.
Yeah.
Ever since I was, I mean, that would put me at what, 8 years old? 20 years ago would be 2005. So yeah, I mean, that was
Yeah.
kind of the very beginning of the dark times. Um,
Well, they don't call it the
yeah,
black hole for nothing.
yeah. So, long story short, Alex Kappa started this game over Jackson Powers Johnson. I think last week you might have texted me asking why did the Raiders bench Jackson Powers Johnson?
Yeah,
And I said,
it
"Oh, he
was
wasn't benched. He had a concussion." Um, you should have texted me again this week asking me why did the Raiders bench Jackson Powers Johnson? Because my answer would have been, I have no fucking clue. Um, although it was revealed post game by Pete Carroll that he thought some continuity would be good in keeping Kappa in since Jackson Powers Johnson didn't get a full week of practice. Um,
Well, you thought wrong, Pete.
yeah, you thought wrong, and I'd really like to know what went into hiring your son as the offensive line coach. Um, and I really want to know just how awkward it's going to be when you have to inevitably fire him for malpractice or malpractice, however you say it. This offensive line is garbage. We were saying this last year, so it's not entirely a shock. And maybe it's not worse. I really should go back and look at the stats from the first 3 weeks of last year. I just remember it was hopeless with Jameer White. And who was the other running back we had? I feel like we had somebody else
Sincere
that we like.
McCormick.
Yeah, that was later in the season. I think it was just Amir White.
Amir Abdullah.
Yeah, maybe Amir Abdullah.
Oh no. Alexander Madison.
Yeah, there he is. And obviously, Ashton Janty is much more uh, talented than those guys. Um, and I feel like I really do think it was worse last year because I feel like those running backs were going for like no more than 20 yards a game at times. And at least Janty's had like a 60-yard game or about around a 60-yard game. Um, and this week I think he had maybe I can find out really quick. Let's see how many yards did Janty have.
He had like 63 or 67.
Yeah, he had 17 carries for 63 yards. Not terrible, not great, but the 17 carries I can get behind because week 2 he only had 11 for 43. And frankly, I was pissed. Not only because he's on my fantasy team, but because what are how are we going to get him developed if you don't just throw him out there and run him? So weeks 1, 19 carries, week 3, 17 carries. I need more of that. I need to see him more in the pass game. I don't understand how you don't dump it off to him more. That might be a Geno problem, but I'm also going to delegate the blame to Chip Kelly because he's not being creative enough. This is very this is a very these first 3 weeks have been very vanilla to me. Um there were some nice play calls early on in the Patriots game,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of just went away in my opinion. Um
It's the Chip Kelly experience that I remember.
yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes cuz I mean, if it's like this all year, I hope they fire him. Um because they're overpaying him. If it goes like this, if weeks 1 through 3 continues through week 18, you have to fire him. And one way or another, Pete Carroll's son cannot be the coach of the offensive line. We need an actual NFL offensive line coach in this building. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was the from day one, that was the questionable hire that I always had an issue with. And I was just like optimistically kind of like, all right, hopefully it works out and things can't possibly be worse than last year. Gianti ran the ball 17 times. I'd say at least probably 13 or 14 of them. He was just running into a wall. And every single time it was an inside run right into a defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and let's you know what? Let's do something right now. This will be fun. I'm gonna
Oh, I
search up
hope
the
so.
definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity is a legal term used to describe a mental state that renders a person okay, fuck me.
No, it's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah, so that I mean that I've never actually thought that that was the genuine
Definition.
definition, but it's a good example of insanity.
Yep. I
Um,
think I think it was Albert Einstein that said that. That
gotcha.
it's a quote.
So basically, in the most negative way possible, this Raiders offense is the definition of insanity because every single run play is right up the middle. It's an inside run. It's like Chip Kelly's playing Madden and he's just doing the coach's recommendation every fucking time, and it's just run up the gut every single play. And
Mike,
then, yeah,
my first ever football game, I'm going to share this experience with you. My first ever football game was Kaepernick's last game, right? I've told you that many times. And it was Chip Kelly's last game as a head coach for the 49ers. And literally, my brother and I, we were sitting in the nosebleeds getting cooked by the sun, although it was cold outside, which I guess Santa Clara can be kind of weird like that. Uh, we were just complaining the whole time that it felt like Chip Kelly was just pressing halfback dive over and
yeah,
over and three and outs. And he, all right, I don't know. The Raiders are not going no huddle, right? They're not doing that shit, right?
no,
The Niners would go
it's
no
not like,
huddle.
yeah, it's
They would
not
go
high
no huddle
tempo.
and halfback dive, just over and over.
Yeah, and I don't. I don't know what the thought process is. What actually is mind-boggling to me, um, is like how do any NFL caliber people, like, just for example, Pete Carroll, Joe Philbin, I mean, hey, John Spytek, Patrick Graham, right?
Yeah.
Well respected people in the NFL, other than John Spytek, who have coaching experience that dates back, maybe 10 plus years. I say maybe because of Patrick Graham, but I'm pretty sure he goes back 10 plus years. How do you come out of a football game and like have your meetings on Monday or Tuesday and not just scathe Chip Kelly? Like, hey, just anybody raise your hand, whether it's Pete or Joe or Pat Graham. Just raise your hand, be the brave face, and say, hey, you know what? Um, Doing the same thing over and over and over again, and consistently watching our first round running back, sixth overall pick running back, just getting fucking cracked by defensive tackles, not even at the line of scrimmage. Ashton Gianti has 145 yards after contact, which is awesome. I think that's it. Or maybe
The
I'd have to
percentage
find
of
it.
his yards after contact, I saw like a number, it was like 101%.
It's 101% if you cut out right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
101% after contact. In other words, I think it's 144 attempts and he has 145 yards after contact. Something like that. Um, why why not run outside? Why I don't know, why not get more creative? Why not do a screenplay? Why not get Janty out in space? Janty is like one of the top 5 to 10, if not 3 running backs in the league on like broken tackle percentage, because every play he has to break at least 2 tackles just to get a yard, for reference. Um if you got that guy out in space, you might actually score more touchdowns, by the way.
Yeah. I do want to talk about that because I do have that as part of my keys to the game. I don't know why they insist on running just straight up the middle and not trying to get Ashton Jeanty in open space. Imagine if they're able to get him, on a screen or, a toss or, outside zone, just off tackle instead of just running behind the weakness of the O line.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see Chip Kelly kind of being the fall guy this year. I guess I'm already calling it week 3, but that
Well,
wasn't really my intent coming into this podcast. Like, I have more to say. It's just like, for reference, part of the reason why I like Kenneth Walker in fantasy this year is because I had seen a lot of people talking about how, oh, well, because they got Kubiak with that Shanahan offense, the Seahawks won't have to rely so heavily on their shitty offensive line anymore. They're going to make sure that they get their players out in space and they do this, that, whatever with their, X run scheme, yada yada. And it works, right? Like, Kenneth Walker has looked good. Charbonnet in moments has looked great. Um, and they're getting it done. Uh, that's just what happens when you get a guy who is actually creative in play calling. And it makes me think that the Raiders should have gone for a guy like Kubiak out of a system like the Shanahan sort of offense. Um, if they knew their offensive line was going to be this fucking garbage from the get go. Um, yeah, what were you going to say?
No, well, all right. So you had posed the question on why they would just let this happen and not chew him out. And I think part of the reason why is, all right, first off, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You know, we don't know what's going on in the Raiders facility. If players are saying, man, what the fuck are you doing? Right. Uh, but another thing, too, is it's still only the third game, which it's a brand new regime. Like I think players are going to be a little bit more patient, and I think coaches are going to be a little bit more patient because, you know, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I that's why I'm not upset with Pete Carroll, although I could be about his, son as the hire for the offensive line coach. Like I genuinely think that is a massive problem. But as far as the regime, like I saw somebody on Instagram or something, blaming John Spytek, like, oh, it was free agency. It's because he didn't spend money in free agency. I'm like, brother, you have no idea. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Put your phone down and touch grass. It's not John Spytek's fault. Like, this is year one walking into a very shitty team that has had, like Top Baby has said, 20 years of this bullshit, culminating into this roster. As I have said this entire offseason, the Raiders need above all continuity and I already forget. I'm also tired. Just actual adults in the room, actual decision makers that know what they're doing. And I think they have that in Pete Carroll and John Spytek, but continuity takes more than 2 years. You know, you have to draft well, you have to re sign players, you have to re sign coaches. You need coaches that are actually good at their job. So we might be a step back now on offense if our offensive coordinator is a fucking idiot. And our offensive line coach is a fucking idiot. So, what made me turn this game off was a healthy mixture of Ashton Gianti constantly running up the gut and getting absolutely teabagged by a defensive tackle, and then alternating that with Geno Smith getting the ball in the shotgun and within point 0.5 seconds running for his fucking life every single play. Um, Dylan Parham, you gotta go. Jordan Meredith, get out of here. Alex Kappa, um, the Canadian Football League could use you. I mean, I got nothing for them, dude. I mean, the Chargers game, dude. There was a play, like I said, those delayed stunts from the defensive coordinator. There was a delayed stunt or blitz from Diane Henley, if that's how you say his name, where Dylan Parham, left guard, you know, hike. It's 4th and 2, pretty sure, or 4th and 5, whatever. And Dylan Parham, based off of I'm assuming his blocking, not
Assignment.
scheme, blocking assignment, he should be blocking Diane Henley based off of where Diane Henley is situated. But he's in a two-man or two-leg stance. I don't know how the fuck, he's standing upright. And he did
2 point
not
stance.
blitz. 2-point stance, thank you. He does not blitz. He just stands there and just stares at Parham. And Parham, like an offensive lineman would, and then he doesn't know what to do because he's got nobody. So he's like, "Oh, I guess I'll go help the center." And once he turns his head to the right, and I'm talking, just puts his hand on Jordan Meredith. That's all he does. He doesn't go over there and try to like body slam and like knock the defensive tackle on his ass. Like, let's pancake the guy. No, he just starts touching Jordan Meredith. Like, I got you, buddy. Meanwhile, Diane Henley fucking sprints past him and nearly kills Geno Smith. The ball game's over. Is that Is that a Dylan Parham problem, or is that a I don't even know Pete Carroll's son's name, and I genuinely don't want to. Is that the coach's problem? It's probably all the above. Maybe that's how you're supposed to react when the linebacker doesn't immediately fucking blitz. But and at the same time, again, kudos to the Chargers defensive coordinator. There was
He's a
another one earlier
mentor.
in the game with Derwin James where he like did this delayed stunt and he got Khalil Mack a sack by taking on DJ Glaze. It was brilliant. Um, the Raiders' offensive line is not ready for that shit. And apparently they're not ready for a Washington defensive line that isn't doing anything special. They're just outpowering them. Uh, so yeah, I had to turn this Washington game off when I don't know. I took notes. I took notes all the way up until I turned the fucking TV off, and I literally had to just take a fucking break, dude. I couldn't do football for the next 30 minutes.
Real quick,
Um,
before you start on that, can I just say
yeah,
that that had to be one of the best things, or at least like for me personally on this show, is when you got up and then you did that demonstration because I'm just you painted a great picture. Like it was fantastic. You know, he's like looking. There's nobody. Turns his head. I got you, buddy.
yeah.
Fucking runs by him, kills the quarterback. That's great.
Because usually, like, if that were Jackson Powers Johnson, and this is why I like Jackson Powers Johnson at center, other than just the fact that, oh, by the way, Jackson Powers Johnson is a fucking center, and this offensive line staff just refuses to let him do it. That's a whole other issue, is that we have at least two guys playing out of position right now. It is so fucking frustrating. Um, but if Jackson Powers Johnson were on that play at left guard, maybe the guy gets past him. Maybe Henley still gets the sack. Um, but at least I would watch Jackson Powers Johnson on film possibly make a full sprint towards the nearest defensive tackle to his right. He would run past Jordan Meredith and he would crack the defensive tackle until he's on the ground. That's what I want. I mean, at the end of the day, I want my lineman to stay there and make sure my quarterback doesn't get sacked and not turn his back on a guy who can easily just run right past him the moment he does. Um, but like I've seen multiple plays this year already where Dylan Parham just doesn't even look like he gives a fuck. That's just frustrating. So the last of my notes, I was gonna like week one just read all my notes, and then this game pissed me off to where I had to just turn everything off. So the last thing I put here, I'll do the last like two paragraphs. I thought the Commanders. This is literally what I wrote. I thought the Commanders wouldn't have a chance with 30 seconds left in the half, but Kuntz gets a face mask penalty when tackling Mariota. Mariota then scrambles on the next play to make it a 56-yard field goal attempt. Pete Carroll decides to ice Matt Gay, and he misses the iced attempt, aka when it was called timeout, he still kicked, he missed it wide right. Then Matt Gay proceeds to make the actual 56-yard attempt. 20-10, Commanders at half. And then I don't know when this took place. Maybe it was the beginning of the third. Probably not though. Um, I think dude, just the nonstop up the gut Gianti getting stuffed within a yard by a D tackle, and then Gino getting the snap, and one free rusher coming in straight after him. I'm telling you, I was actually going insane. Like I was probably making a Stanley Kubrick stare at the fucking TV. And if you don't know what I mean, which is every Stanley Kubrick movie has a character that just makes this insane, like dead inside stare at the camera at some point. Um, what would some examples be? 2001: A Space Odyssey. The classic one is Red Rum. Um, why am I forgetting? It's with Jack Nicholson with the axe. Here's Johnny.
Oh, is that The Shining? The Shining?
The Shining. Yeah, The Shining. And then Clockwork Orange is another one. He's got a couple movies like that where there's a character who does this insane stare towards the camera. That's what I was doing towards my television watching the Raiders in the first half of this game. And then the last notes that I have is DJ Glaves gives up a third down sack. That's all I put. And then the next paragraph is 3-and-out on the next drive. Absolutely no hope for this team. The offensive line is giving this game up. The season's over. No more notes. And then in parentheses, followed by a Washington point return touchdown. Point return touchdown. Oh, punt return. Yeah, they returned a punt while I was still trying to turn off the TV. Yeah.
Oh my god, I can just imagine you're getting up, walking to turn it off, and it's just getting worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it just kept getting worse. And then what I missed in this game, apparently, the one positive was Trey Tucker had the game of his life. Um, Congrats in one of the most terrible games I've ever seen in my life. So,
Dude, you know what the Raiders offense was? If I had to make a SpongeBob analogy right now.
hmm.
So do you remember when Patrick goes, maybe we should take Bikini Bottom and move it somewhere else, right? And then so they're just fucking pushing Bikini Bottom. Like instead of getting Genty in open space, right? It's just all right. We're just gonna run them right up the gut, and it's push, push,
I wish
push.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I get you. I mean, it's Janty that's doing the pushing, really. He gets the ball and then he's just pushing against two defensive tackles immediately.
No
Um,
creativity, just fucking push.
yeah, and I've seen a couple plays like maybe Ted Nguyen or whoever was putting out film on Twitter, and there might be a play or two where it's like, yeah, I think Janty might have actually missed his read right there. Um, but it really doesn't matter when one of the offensive guards is also missing his block completely. It's
Yeah.
I think it will get better. Like, I have Janty on my fantasy team. I feel like things can't get worse. Um, and at this point, I mean, if he's getting 17 touches a game, like just give him a touchdown every here and there, he'll be fine. But I'd like to see him be that explosive guy that we were hoping for. And I think what it really comes down to, I mean, this offensive line is the biggest problem on this team. I didn't mention how bad the defensive backs were as far as just giving it up in this game, but that's a whole other story. I don't feel like talking about the defense. Um, the offensive line needs to get better, but also, as I have mentioned, the play calling needs to get more creative. Like if honestly, I really do believe if Chip Kelly were just more creative, the Raiders could win games with Geno Smith, with Aston Gianti. Like basically, this might sound crazy. Just do what Shanahan is doing with McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Like it's not like we're hurt to high hell. We just have a shitty offensive line, but we're not missing like a George Kittle right now. We're not missing a Nick Bosa right now. We're actually healthy. And yet we look like dog shit and the Niners over there are 3-0. What's the difference? It's the offensive line, it's Chip Kelly, and it's the defensive backs. And two out of three of those things were the main concerns that I had for this season. The offensive line and the defensive backs. But now Chip Kelly being a problem, and on top of the offensive line is the coach of the offensive line. I don't know how much better it will get, but I can't help but think it can't be that hard. I'm not a pro coach. I'm not a pro player, but I can't imagine it's that hard to get more creative. Get guys open in space. Like the plays that I notice succeed the most on this team right now are either A, Trey Tucker gets wide open, B, Jacoby Myers runs a route that is unguardable. Not necessarily because Jacoby Myers is unguardable, he's obviously guardable, but because the way that the route was
Designed.
scripted, designed, yes, that is unguardable. There's one play in specific where it was trips to the left And I think both of the other receivers, maybe one did a crosser or both did, you know, they just ran straight, a fade, And then Jacoby Myers did like I guess maybe you could call it like a dig, but not really. It was more like a wheel route almost, just out of the left. And the corner couldn't do anything about it. He gained like 25 plus yards. Like if you just do that 6 times a game, for one, my fantasy team will thank you. Two, we will actually score touchdowns because you can't guard it. So like how fucking hard is it? Honestly, how hard is it for an offensive coordinator to just go, oh, I should I should do that more often. Oh, and like cuz I don't understand how these offensive coordinators just go, yeah, let's hey Gino, all right, we're gonna run in, play 17, XY dash 36 double L, spider 2Y banana, whatever the fuck it's called. And Gino goes, okay, cool. Eh, but the premise of this play is, okay, our X receiver is gonna run this super fucking basic route. Our Y receiver is gonna do this super fucking basic route. And the Z receiver, he's just gonna run a fucking crosser, and we're just gonna hope that one of them gets open. Why in the fuck would I ever do that? Why would I ever have my receivers run routes where I just go, yeah, hope he gets open, or else Godspeed to the quarterback, when I can design them to get open? I don't understand it. But whatever. I'm not a pro.
Here's my interpretation of Chip Kelly and the success that he's had versus the struggles he's had. So I would say that the Raiders are not necessarily outmatching their opponents, and I would say at the NFL level, you would be hard pressed to find a team that really, really outmatches another one. Like, there's certain matchups where if you put the Eagles versus the Panthers, like, clearly it's going to be a mismatch, right? Uh, you know, Stuff like that. But Chip Kelly, before he was at Ohio State, which notoriously has fantastic draft prospects, right?
Mm-hmm.
They notoriously do. Um, he was at UCLA, and I think what did he get fired or what? Like it wasn't working out at UCLA,
Yeah.
and so Chip Kelly I think just kind of has the same offensive philosophy wherever he goes, and so he goes to Ohio State and looks like a genius because literally the offensive line is getting like 4 yards. They're pushing the excuse me. They're pushing the. Hold on, man. 1 second.
No, my throat was getting so dry earlier. I don't even blame you. I had to
Holy
cough too.
crap. They're pushing the defensive line like 4 yards downfield and actually creating running lanes that you could walk through. Right?
Well, that's the thing
So,
about college to me is like you said, Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, they're getting 5-star recruits.
yep.
That'd be like a team full of Pro Bowlers versus a team full of, convicts, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm talking longest yard, you know. Um, like that doesn't, like you're saying, that doesn't happen in the NFL. Like each team, as far as disparity or whatever the term would be, like you're not going to be so outmatched that it's impossible any given Sunday. So, whereas in college, if Ohio State plays uh, Western Kentucky or Eastern Michigan, Max Crosby's old team, like Ohio State's going to beat them by fucking 50 for a reason.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So I feel like Chip Kelly was able to get away with calling those plays, and the NFL is like a "What have you done for me lately" league. So Pete Carroll, looking for who's who could be better than the guy who just won the national championship calling plays.
and it's funny because that's exactly what the Seahawks did a year prior and fired that guy immediately
Was that
this
Shane
past
Shane
offseason.
Waldron?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yep.
From
So
Washington.
like it fucking happens. And you know what? I wonder if Pete Carroll had some say into that decision, to hire him because Pete Carroll was an advisor
For Ohio State?
for the Seahawks.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I
You
mean,
know,
maybe Pete Carroll thinks that these offensive coordinators from college are a thing, but yeah, I remember not really ever rooting for the Pete Carroll hire. I was more in line with like Kubiak, anybody from the Shanahan tree. I don't care if
you
he's
mean
a.
Chip Kelly? You were a fan of the Pete Carroll hire.
Oh, my
So
bad.
was
Yeah,
I.
Chip Kelly. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I I was never a fan or like inciting that I wanted Chip Kelly to be hired. Once the rumors came, then it was like, all right, I can see it working. He's had success with the Eagles before, but that was a while ago.
He
Um,
got figured out.
yeah, yeah, and I mean when you run, uh, halfback dive every other play, you're gonna get figured out. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I mean,
I'm thinking
I'm
of
just praying. Go ahead.
what if Chip Kelly is at home and he's like, "Why isn't it working?"
Or he's watching just some random YouTube podcast called Silver and Gold, and he's just like, man, maybe I should rethink things.
He's like smoking a fat blunt. He's like, "Bro, why are these guys being hella mean?"
Yeah, I have an idea.
It's like,
Why
what
don't I
if I
do halfback dive, but with a fullback?
halfback dive, but with Dylan Lobby? That'll be the creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, yeah. You're asking too much out of Chip Kelly. Well, you're asking the bare minimum, but the bare minimum is too much out of Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I I I want to say this too. This also crossed my mind of you watching the Raider game on Sunday. Right before you turned it off, like I just imagine you were Coach Klein from The Longest Yard when he's in the film room and he goes, and there they go, picking up the ball, nobody around them. Oh, look, he has time to dust it off before anybody realizes what's going on. Like, it was that bad.
You know who would be a fun offensive coordinator next
Me,
year?
me.
Honestly, I might be better than Chip Kelly. Um, if they want to go the Shanahan coaching tree, it all depends on if this guy gets fired, but Mike McDaniel.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna say that. But all right, I'm not saying it's true. I really hope it's not true. But if people are, if the rumors are true that he relapsed, and he's back drinking again, it
Hmm.
would be the most Raider thing for him to be the coach and then be in Las Vegas, the where you can be out on the strip drinking legally. It's got disaster written all over it. But hopefully Mike McDaniel is has not relapsed. But you know,
Yeah. I
if he
mean, maybe.
has, I don't know, crack open a cold one in Vegas, Mike.
Yeah.
No, I'm
I
kidding. That's poor taste. I apologize.
Yeah, I would say Miami and Vegas are probably pretty similar as far as accessibility for all that. But I mean, on the bright side, you have Max Crosby on the roster, who is very, you know, much led through his um sobriety or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Let me go ahead and go over the notes that I had for the Raider game, and then we can move on to our predictions for the next game that I think that you're very excited for. Um, but I do think that this loss in particular, I think, really struck a nerve with Raider fans. I could tell everybody was posting on their stories saying, "Man, this fucking team sucks. This team fucking sucks. We suck again." Like, I don't know, just everybody. This loss in particular, not the Chargers one, but this one. Um,
Sorry, can I stop you right there?
yeah,
Maybe I shouldn't really say this on the internet. Uh,
then don't.
well, no, no, I'm not going to say something outlandish. I'm more about myself than anything. Just, like, when you get so mad like you hear the term like seeing red. Like if people get in a fight or something, and then it's just like they can't stop. They just let it out type of
Mm,
thing.
yeah.
Like they see red, they just pure anger. I have this thing that happens to me, and I think football mostly is the thing that does it for me, but sometimes other things have done it. Um, but it's usually football. Specifically the Raiders. But it really doesn't happen that often, especially when I don't give a fuck anymore. So like it usually takes this moment to happen for me to just go, well, that wasn't healthy. I'm done. You know. But there comes a point where you get so frustrated, or actually pissed off, um, with something that is so frustrating that like essentially when I turned off this game, my hands were shaking because I felt the urge to punch something. Like I needed to throw something, I needed to yell, I needed to do something to get this like dark festering energy out of my body because it was radiating. Um and I just kind of like quietly turned off the TV. I I think what I actually did, yeah, I there's this gate at my mom's house to let like leave the dogs in or out. Like I swung the fucking thing open, slammed it closed, go in my room, and the only thing I can do that won't hurt something is grab my hat and fucking throw it across the room. I'm like, this fucking team sucks. So fucking stupid. Whatever, right? And this was after seeing Geno Smith just play after play. It was like one, two, three. It was Gianti up the middle, no gain. Gianti up the middle, no gain. And then fucking Geno Smith running for his life within 0.5 seconds. Free rusher on third down and just not a chance. And then, the punt return. The punt return, I was already over it. It was the offense, dude. The offense killed me. Um I threw the hat. I'm standing there, I'm like, if I were a kid, I would have lost it. If I were a kid, I would have been punching a hole in the fucking wall, dude. I swear to God. I would have been doing something so bad. But
Yeah.
I'm just standing there.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm just standing there like festering. My hands are literally shaking. Like, dude, if if I had a punching bag in front of me, like it would have been getting Captain America. Um, so I'm like, well, fuck. I'm like, I have all this energy. I walk back to the kitchen, swing the gate back open, slam it back closed. It can handle it. It's fine. I just needed to get it out slowly and like incrementally, right? And I'm like, fuck this. And my mom had this leftover pasta. In my head, I'm like, I need to fucking eat. I need something like just to get me off this. I like swing the refrigerator door open. I get the pasta out, put it down. I get a bowl. I'm standing there and I'm like, fuck, I'm not even fucking hungry. I put it all back and I just fucking go back to my room like fucking pissed off.
Oh man.
Oh, dude. I
You
was
know
so
what
mad, dude.
you know what's going on in my mind right now, like why I'm cracking up over here? Cuz I mean, more than once you've described how frustrated you were. And so I'm just thinking about like uh it's week 3, or we just finished week 3 and it's already like this. And there's a Niner, a person in on Niner Twitter. I think he might have a YouTube channel. If not, then he used to. He used to do lives with Grant sometimes. His name is Niner Nick, and so Nick, I think his name is Nick Newman. If Nick, if I get it wrong, I'm sorry. But dude, it's hilarious because he's the guy who will record videos doing 40 like rants. He'll just like be angry and shouting at the camera, and it doesn't even matter like because he goes to the games, right? Let me see. Like, uh, do you remember? Uh, there's this account called Sour Death Sam. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, shout out to him too because he's great. But he did an overlay and just put like 4 different videos of Nick's rants on top of each other, and it's like 4 videos of just him like screaming into the camera, and he's like, "This is why you don't run a franchise quarterback up the middle," and then it like just like ranting on whatever he doesn't think Shanahan should do, right? And I love these videos because I feel the same way about a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
And so they're layered on top of each other, and then Sourdough Sam, like when something really bad happens, or like where all the fans are mad, I swear he's done this more than once. He goes, "Release the hounds," and it's just the video of all the yelling on top of each other. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
Oh god.
Hold on. Release the hounds.
Oh my god.
Oh, I got it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah, see, he's done it more than once. Release the hounds.
Oh my god.
I love it so much.
That's hilarious. Release the hounds.
I'm just thinking about how you're over here like, man, I was so angry, I slammed the thing, and like I'm just like, it would be like the Raiders version, and like I just post like a small little like reel on TikTok or like a Facebook short, or I mean a YouTube short, and just like it's only week 3, and then you're like, yeah, I was so angry I got up to turn off the TV, and then a punt return, and then Chip Kelly, why aren't they chewing him out? And I don't know. This shout out
Release
to
the hounds.
Sour Death Sam and Niner Nick.
Yeah, for reference, being that I'm an adult, I would not lose my temper to the point of like, disrupting my house or something, but I'll willingly throw my hat anytime when I get really pissed off. It's just, I don't know, man. This game just got me. Something about it. Just, again, that insanity. Like, the best way I could describe it is that definition of insanity of, like, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different. Like, that's what the Raiders' offense has been so far. And it's so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Especially knowing that they actually have talent.
When I played that video, you were able to hear the audio, right? No?
No.
Oh, I didn't play through Discord. I'll send it to you. No. It's way funnier when you can hear it. It's way funny. You probably could hear it on the podcast. It's just Discord probably filtered it out.
Okay.
Yeah. But dude, you would get a kick out of it. So shout out to them. But going back to the Raiders and kind of pulling this all back in, I think that there's many things that we could dive into about this loss, but I'm just going to choose going forward to just keep it very simple. The Raiders got whooped in the trenches, and that was really the difference in the game. On the defensive side of the ball, the Raiders allowed 201 rushing yards combined between all the running backs, Debo and Marcus Mariota. And the Raiders were only able to generate 1 sack, which is Max Crosby just doing Max Crosby things. On the other hand, on offense, the Raiders allowed 5 sacks and were yet again unable to establish the run. Genty had 17 carries for 63 yards, and Zamir White, efficiency-wise, was pretty on par, as he had 5 carries for 19 yards. With the schedule looking to not give the Raiders many breaks over the next several weeks, the playoff dreams could quickly start to slip away, as it's currently looking bleak. which is so weird to say because it's still so early in the season. Um, but the Raiders must make it a point of emphasis this offseason, no matter what happens, whether they get back on track or not, to rebuild the offensive line. It's way past overdue. And
Yeah.
I just want to say like about what I just said too about like it looking bleak and everything. I am incredibly swayed by recency bias when I do mention the lack of breaks because of how quickly the playoff hopes could possibly slip away. I think the Raiders can get back on track this week. They will be 2-2 and still in the playoff hunt. So pardon me for getting way too far
I don't even blame you.
ahead.
I Yes, you make a great point though. This offseason needs to be the offseason of shoring up and fixing the offensive line. Like that needs to be mission 1, 2, and 3 this offseason. Um, Other
Or
than maybe you can go for a rookie quarterback and give him a year to learn under Gino. But like, I don't know, man. If you're sitting there at like, I mean, at this point, they're so fucking bad right now. Like, they might have a top 5 pick. Like, I actually, the joke that I had thought of yesterday, Sunday, was, they're playing so bad right now that they might actually be on pace for like the first overall pick. Let's just say they get the first overall pick. They should take an offensive tackle. That's how bad their offensive line is right now. Like, they clearly should take a quarterback in that position, and I would say, I hope they take the best offensive lineman available.
well, I think if anytime you have the chance to get the quarterback, you get him. Even if he has to sit
100,
behind Gino, it'll be for the
100%.
greater good.
You can
Um,
all. I mean, the weird thing about football is like you can always just sign some 36-year-old free agent, and somehow he could actually do everything you need him to do as long as he stays healthy. It's just a matter of finding the right guys. Like you're less likely to succeed if you're depending on a rookie, you know,
mhm.
especially on the line. Like one positive, if you will, is like they have Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers. I don't even know if that's his name.
I know who you're
But the
talking
two
about.
rookie, yeah, the two rookie third round offensive linemen, like they can't see the field right now because the rookies. But in a perfect world, maybe next year, the offensive guard wins the left guard spot or something, and we can get rid of Dylan Parham. And then maybe
Or
in 2 years, the tackle wins the right tackle spot. I don't know.
yeah, or how about the Raiders? Let's just say they get another top six pick this year,
Mm-hmm.
and there's another great running back on the board. And Chip Kelly is sitting in the meeting room and is like, this Ashton kid,
Somehow.
this Ashton kid, he can't perform the halfback dives the way that I normally
Yeah.
perform them. I need this new kid,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
it's all Genti's fault. It's not the offensive line.
It's just insane because if we had, I mean, really, if we had Clint Kubiak as our offensive coordinator, Janty would probably get in like 6 targets a game. They would actually be like scripted, and the run game would probably just overall be better. Like, I don't know, it's insane. But
Mm-hmm.
to your point, offensive line this offseason, it's going to be emphasis. It has to be the emphasis.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Now we move on, right? You ready to
Yep.
move on?
Yeah, this would be quick.
All right, Mike. Do you even want there to be a Raider game this week?
I really don't. Um, but as I mentioned, I had that moment of kind of losing my temper and just pissed off. This team sucks, and then I came out of that going, you know what, that wasn't healthy. Um, my expectations and my level of care have suddenly slipped away, and I don't give a fuck anymore. Um, for all I care, they can lose the next 14 weeks. I could give a fuck. I really
We're
could.
already there.
We are already there. As long as this offensive line looks like this, and then making these decisions like, oh, I mean, all fucking offseason, we were talking about this. Raider fans, we're talking about this of like, what are we doing putting Jordan Meredith, who was solid at right guard, at center now? A position he apparently hasn't played since high school. Why? Why are we moving Jackson Powers Johnson, who was drafted as a center and has literally audibly exclaimed to the masses that he is a center, an NFL center, the Raiders' starting center? Why are we forcing him at right guard? What the fuck are we doing? And the thing that freaked me out was like, okay, I understand doing this if like this is the most respected offensive line coach in the NFL. This is, I think his name is Brennan Carroll. This is Brennan Carroll, son of Pete Carroll, a guy who was hardly respected in college last year, who was just like, you know what we should do? We should move these guys. They're like this, and they're doing pretty damn good like this. But what if we go like this, and they do pretty good like that? Now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
Or we can just go back to this, and maybe we'll actually get better, guys.
How else
So
are you
I
going
don't
to
know.
show
Again,
improvement, Mike?
I mean, the only other way that they can show improvement is I, I mean, if you're actually asking me this in a
No,
serious way,
I wasn't, but
yeah. But I mean, to your point though, it would be fixing the offensive line because there are ways to fix it, in my opinion, which is put the guys back to where they're supposed to be fucking playing, you fucking idiots. And then option B, which it should be A and B, you should do both. Chip Kelly needs to get more creative with the play calls. That's really it. The defense, in theory, they can play good. I just think when they're in a negative game script, they get fucked. And that's what happened this week against Marcus Mariota and company.
real quick, this crossed my mind. Um, remember, all right. So as you said, they could lose the next 14 weeks. I could not give a fuck, right? Like you're at that stage right now of your Raider fandom. This happens every season. Um, after getting your hopes up. And so, do you remember in the off season when Pete Carroll said, "I'm not rebuilding. You know, we're here to win."
Yeah.
This is a live look at all the Raider fans for at Pete Carroll for saying that.
See, I mean, to me, again, yes, that is most Raider fans for sure. Um, but as far as like getting my hopes up, I think my hopes were up that we were going to be a very competitive team that would not be above 500. Like that was my prediction was like 8 wins, 7 or 8 wins
Uh,
and not making the playoffs. Like this is year 1 of a new regime. That's unrealistic to expect. I love Pete Carroll, or not love him, but I expect great things out of him. I like him a lot as like the potential, for the future here. But I couldn't possibly come into this season thinking, all right, this is the year. We're finally going to make the Super Bowl. I'd be an idiot. Um,
mm-hmm.
but this this game against Marcus Mariota was just a straight up dismantling, and yeah, my hopes of being competitive against real teams like the Chargers per se are
They
completely gone.
they were in that game though
They were in that game, but only because the Chargers refused to to take it away from them.
to put them to bed.
Yeah, to put them out. The 4th and 2 where they ran a reverse when they should have just punted and pinned us.
Yeah,
They fumbled, and then we had great field position, and yet still Geno Smith ends up getting intercepted. Like every chance the Raiders had to get back in the game, it was like, well, let's get a 4th down sack. Let's throw an interception. Or there were 2 missed penalty calls in that week 2 game But other than that, it was just the Raiders.
Oh man, you mentioning like you mentioning that reminds me of the play. I had like a very snarky comment in the group chat, but Gino was like running for his life, right? On fourth down, and he was looking for someone, right? And then so he's just running everywhere and then decides to throw it away, right?
Mm.
And or I don't know if he like threw it away, but I the way I remember it, he threw it away, and my text was, Gino did a really good job of throwing it away right there, because he did a good job not forcing it and getting intercepted.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about Raiders versus Bears. The Raiders are going to play the Bears, and they will be at home in Las Vegas. And in my opinion, I think this game is very winnable. When I actually think about it, I think this game will be a close one. And here are my keys to the game. Uh, so, first key is to contain Caleb Williams. I think that this season he's shown growth in being able to pick up yards in scrambling. Um, Number two, expect the unexpected. It's a Ben Johnson offense. Anyone can get the ball at any time, and nothing is off the table. I fully expect, a DeAndre Swift led backfield, uh, followed with, or a DeAndre Swift led rushing attack, followed with Caleb Williams just kind of evenly distributing the ball to the receivers with maybe a little bit more load on Romo Dunze and maybe a little bit more, well, mostly Odunze as of late, and then DJ Moore will also be getting his chunk. Um, the next thing too is Gino has to continue to not have turnovers. I don't know if he fumbled in this past game, but he didn't have any interceptions, which was good.
Mm.
They just got whooped up front, Um,
Yeah.
this next one is more for, or I guess these next two are more for Chip Kelly, but call more quick passes to hide the offensive line struggles as you eat yards away and keep drives going. And then lastly, scheme up plays to get Genty into open space. If you can't run straight at them, let him eat in the open field.
Yep.
Now it's prediction time. Since you went first for the prediction on the Niner one, I'll just go ahead and go first. I see this game being very close. The Bears have actually been competitive in their games against really good teams too. But since the Raiders are at home, I'll give them maybe a little bit more that they'll play comfortably rather than being on the road. I'm going to give the edge to the Bears because I have more confidence that their offense will be able to put up points at a higher rate than the Raiders. But that being said, I would not be shocked if the Raiders do end up pulling off a win at home.
Mm.
I think it's going to be a good game, but I'll take the Bears in this one.
Yeah, I can see this one being, for lack of a better term, fun. Um, in the sense of like actually being a little back and forth, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, excuse me. Um, I was gonna laugh my ass off if you were like, "Yeah, I think I'll give the Raiders the edge this week." They're playing at home, and I'm gonna pick the Bears. Like, just like start egging it up. Like, I might go with the Raiders here, and then just yeah, Bears 20, Raiders 3.
Yeah.
Um, no, I'm also gonna pick the Bears again. I have no hope as long as they don't change things on the offensive line. They don't change things on the halfback dive play calls. They don't get better in pass protection. This team is not going to win games. They have the Tennessee Titans coming up in like 3 or 4 weeks. They're on pace to lose to the Tennessee Titans the way that they're fucking playing. It is ridiculous. Um, this Bears team is going to take advantage of their offensive line, and they're just going to look better on offense than the Raiders, and that's kind of saying something. Because 2 weeks ago people thought that the Bears, or at least Caleb Williams, is still a mess. And then this past week they kind of beat the brakes off the Cowboys. What CD got hurt like first thing in the game. Um, but suddenly, the Bears look kind of, oh wow, they look really good. They put like 40 points on the Cowboys. Um, yeah, let's see what they do against the fucking Raiders, who just got killed. I mean, it was the same thing, basically, but against the Commanders of like 40 points put on them. Their offense didn't look good. Defense just got scored on. Uh, that's what the Bears just did to the Cowboys. That's what the Commanders, without Jaden Daniels, just did to the Raiders. So I can see something like that happening again, but maybe the Raiders do a little bit better on offense initially in this game. I think the Bears are actually defensively a good matchup for both, especially the pass game, but also the run game. Whereas the Commanders were not quite so good of a matchup,
Mhm.
which is why I can see this being a little like a back and forth sort of game. But I just imagine there will be drives where the offensive line fails them, the play calling fails them, and that is the difference of the game where the Bears will win.
So you're taking the Bears.
Yep.
Well, there you have it. We're both picking the Bears. Sorry, I activated my phone assistant. I don't want to say the name right now for obvious reasons. But yeah, obviously, Mike, are you still rooting for the Raiders, or are you rooting for a draft pick at this point?
um, I'm rooting for the Raiders only because I have the running back in fantasy.
And the wide
Like if they
receiver.
just and their wide receiver, yeah. But if they were losing 40-0, they still have to throw the ball. Um, yeah, I need them to be competitive in these games so that they can run the ball, and they need to start succeeding at running the ball. So I'm still rooting on the run game, for lack of a better term, and Jacoby Myers.
Mm-hmm. And there you have it. That's the end of the episode today. It's about to be 1:30 in the morning. Um, we've gone later, but today we did start pretty late. But I do want to give a quick shout out to Ta Baby for tuning in, I think for the first time. I want to give another shout out to Frank Weber, who's been a regular on the show, commenting, and Julio Rodriguez, who Julio came in, he was the first comment. Maybe it was like more of a deep question, right? Uh, he said, "Is this live?" Now, what if he meant more by it? Like, is this life? What is this? I don't know. Food for thought. Homework as you go home. Think about, is this live? Because it will no longer be live in a couple seconds. Mike, do you have any last last words before we get out of here?
Um, just fix the offensive line, man.
Yes. Spare some run blocks. Spare some creativity, Chip Kelly.
Yeah,
Release the hounds.
something. Release the hounds. Yeah.